Greetings. We'd like to welcome you to the 2023 Public Service Application Information Session. My name is Kelly Russell. I am the Assistant Director for Community Development. Today you'll hear from myself and our Program Supervisor, Joshua Roland, and we will walk you through this presentation. What you're about to learn is how does the public service grant occur? You're going to learn an overview of the program and some of the recent updates we have. You're going to learn how is an organization eligible and what activities does that include. And we'll actually give you a look at the actual public service grant application. And lastly, if you have any questions, we'll let you know what you need to do to get those questions answered. So right now we're going to tell you about how do CDBG funds work. CDBG funds are the source of our public service grants, which we in our office refer to as PSG. These funds come from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, better known as HUD, and HUD is responsible for all CDBG funds. There have been some changes to our public service grant program. For instance, this year's allocation will only be $100,000. This will be coming from the mayor's office. CDBG funds can be used for three national objectives: low and moderate income persons, slum and blight, and urgent need. For the purpose of our public service grant, we're going to focus on low and moderate income activities. Eligible activities under low and moderate income activities include area benefit, limited clientele, housing, and jobs. This is a reimbursement grant, which means you must incur expenses to get paid for them. All subrecipients must be 501c3 organizations, and some of the expenses that you'll be paying for will include supplies and personnel expenses. You will submit supporting documentation to the city to get reimbursed for these expenses. Copies of these expenses or copies of supporting documentation will include bills, invoices, receipts, payroll registers, pay stubs, and timesheets. The city will issue a check to subrecipients, which will come to the controller's office, but please know until your invoice is processed, you will not receive a payment. Some of the program updates for 2023, as we've previously mentioned, there's going to be less money this year. There's only $100,000. With that, there will be a higher minimum amount of $10,000 that will be awarded per group. It is best to focus your proposed activity on serving clients, for instance, programs serving youth or seniors. Please do know that there's going to be funding for community organizations designated in the budget. Those funds will be coming from the City Council's office, and as that process is finalized, our office and Council's Budget's office will be able to let other groups know how you can get access to those funds. But for the public service grant application, please know our applications are due Friday, April 14th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Applications received after 5 o'clock will not be accepted. Contracts will not be executed until January of 2024, and they will cover the full calendar year of 2024. And also, please note any expenses that are incurred by your group before January 2024 will not be reimbursable. Just so you know, we do have some program updates for the year of 2024. Those programs funded will be in specific categories. Examples of youth programs, senior programs, or food and security programs. We would like you to check our website for when those updates are made, so as we get ready to go into the 2024 year, you will know how you can submit your application. At this time, I would like to turn over the presentation to our program supervisor, Joshua Roland, and he will talk to you about the $100,000 question of, is your organization able to receive these funds?
Thank you, Kelly. This is Joshua Roland, program supervisor for the Community Development Office. So now we're going to go into the logistics of applying for public service grant funds. On this slide, you see the eligibility requirements for applicants. Organizations interested in public service funding must have a 501c3 status and be current on annual filings to the IRS. If your organization has not filed a 990 last year, you will need to attach a letter on your letterhead explaining why. This should only affect churches and newly formed organizations. Here are more eligibility criteria for organizations. The first bullet describes a newer requirement for applications. Last year, the federal government required that all applicants obtain a Unique Entity ID, or UEI. Organizations will need to create a profile on sam.gov to secure a UEI for their organization. We have linked resources on obtaining a UEI, including a video explaining the process on the application webpage and on these slides. If you don't have one already, start the process to obtain a UEI immediately. Along with the UEI, organizations will need to be in good financial standing with the City of Pittsburgh and have appropriate insurance coverage. All organizations must have general liability insurance, and if an organization has paid staff, they must also have workers' compensation insurance. Is your project eligible? As Kelly mentioned earlier, these projects must be used to serve Pittsburgh residents with low and moderate incomes. In your application, you will need to note either you are serving presumed benefit populations or your organization income verifies its clients. This slide lists the populations that are considered presumed benefit by the federal government. If your project serves exclusively members of one of these populations, your program is CDBG eligible. If your program as a whole serves other populations as well as one of these, you can either prove all client incomes or only use funding for these specific clients. If your organization is collecting income information, be sure to follow these guidelines listed on the slide. I am not going to go over each of these now, but be sure to note the various sources of incomes that should be considered. Once organizations verify the income and household size of their clients, they should use this table to ensure that clients do not exceed the 80% AMI limit on the right-hand side of this table. These limits are based on Pittsburgh's median income and are updated annually. All awarded organizations will receive a copy of these income limits. Organizations conducting income verification have done this in a few acceptable ways. Many organizations ask their clients to complete an intake form listing their household size, income of adults in the household, and reviewing income documentation like a pay stub. Other organizations have worked with clients already enrolled in another federal program that requires income eligibility. For example, youth eligible for the free lunch program are also eligible for public service grant funding. Also, some organizations focus their public service funds towards a project serving Housing Authority residents. Here is a list of the various types of projects that the public service grant can fund this year. The application will ask you to select from this list of projects. Applications will only be accepted through the Engage PGH webpage, and they must be submitted by Friday, April 14th at 5 p.m. Remember, this year's grants will be larger and less funding will be available overall. Now let's take a look at the grant application webpage. Much of the information in this presentation is written on this page. Scrolling down to the How Do I Apply section, you can see that there is a link to register for the Q&A sessions, as well as resources for obtaining a UEI. After reviewing this information, you can scroll down to the application itself. The application must be completed in one sitting. If you refresh the page, you will lose your progress. We have provided a Word document where you can draft your answers and paste in those responses later. The first section of this application asks for organizational information, including contact information, nonprofit status, and insurance. Scrolling down to the project description section of the application, here's where you'll describe your organization's project and who you will be serving. Finally, at the bottom of the application, you will see where to upload attachments and a button to submit your application. Pay close attention to this list of attachments. If your organization has not filed a 990 last year, you will need to attach a letter with your letterhead explaining why. An important change is that we will be requiring a board resolution or meeting minutes showing approval for the application submission. Let us know as soon as possible if you will have difficulty passing this resolution in time for the deadline. If any of these attachments are too large for website upload, please contact us. This is a reminder that the application must be submitted online. The Word document we provide is only for drafting answers. The final submission has to be through Engage PGH. Listed here are the important dates for the application process. As a reminder, the application is due April 14th. After the application deadline, our office will review applications for eligibility and the mayor's office will determine awards in May. Note that contracts will start later than usual. Our program year has shifted to start January 2024. If you still have questions following this presentation, please sign up for one of our Q&A sessions happening March 22nd and March 29th. You can also email our office at community.development@pittsburghpa.gov, and of course check out the application website. And thank you for listening to our presentation.